So it might not look like it, but we don't have power. But I have power. So I have a 2022 Ford PowerBoost that has the onboard generator. It has a 7.2 kilowatt hour generator built in. It's the hybrid model. So it has basically a built-in generator, and I've never used it. I mean, I've used it for little things, but I've never used it to power my house. But I wanted to try it and see kind of how it worked and see if it actually could power my house. There's really no reason for me to have hooked a generator up. I mean, we're not really doing anything, but there was no power, and it usually comes back within 30 minutes. But I was bored, so I decided to play with it. I have it here in generator mode, and the car is running, but the engine's not running. That's one of the things that's with these Fords, is when the PowerBoost, they cut the engine off. And it's not like the, you know, you have the button to like turn off the auto start in a car, and then whenever you hit the gas pedal, it turns on. Like, this will actually drive with 0 RPM. So right now, it looks like on phase A and B, we're pulling 1200 watts on one and 470 on the other. So let me show you how I have it hooked up. So I'm going to preface this by, I'm not an electrician, and I'm hooking it up incorrectly. Don't hook it up how I have it hooked up, because it's wrong. So I made a cable that goes from the 30 amp plug. It's a NEMA like 14 something. I'll put a thing on the screen that shows which plug it is, but it's a 30 amp plug, and I have it going down to a 50 amp plug. It's the same plug as my welder, but I have it going out from there and then into my welder extension cord, and then I have it going over to my welder plug, which is a 50 amp plug. However, I only run 10 gauge wire for it, so I have a 30 amp breaker. I just prefer this style plug, which is rated at 50 amps, I'm pretty sure. So I use those plugs, but I have every plug in my garage has a 30 amp breaker on it. So I have it running over here. I have my breaker box opened up just because I wanted to make sure it was wired right, just kind of checks and balances. This is a sub panel, so you're not really supposed to do this either, I don't think. But I have this little temperature thing here, and it will show you kind of where the heat's coming in at. It's kind of cool. It's really blurry right now for some reason, but it's coming in on that 30 amp breaker. So I have it feeding on a 30 amp breaker because the truck can only support 30 amps. So, you know, make sure that your first line of defense is your breaker. And I have a amp clamp here. Let's hook it up. And you can see we're pulling about 10 amps. So not much at all. I mean, not little, but not a ton. But like I said, everything in the garage, the lights are working, everything is working. I'm going back to the truck with the plug, have it plugged in here. But I've since ordered a kit on Amazon, so I can actually plug it in with a cable that's safe and a cable that doesn't cause any sketchiness. And I'm going to put it in the house breaker box, the main breaker box, right there, off of right where it comes in, so I can do the disconnect. I do have my main feed breaker turned off, so obviously anytime you're doing anything with a generator, make sure your main breaker's off the first thing you do so you don't backfeed the system. So as you can see, my truck is still not even idling in like the battery mode. So I want to turn some loads on my house and see if I can get the truck to turn on. So, I mean, you can run for gas, like your gas is going to run. You can run this forever. Obviously, I'm not even burning any gas right now. So let's turn on my air conditioner. Or let's put it in heat mode. And we'll just... We don't want to do a ton of power because we're only dealing with 30 amps. And like I said, everything in the house is running right now. I have the top breaker in this breaker box turned on, and it's feeding to my house coming into that breaker box, but the main breaker's turned off. So there's no back feeding at all. So I turned on that air conditioner. It's gonna slowly ramp up. You can see it ramping up a little bit. It's still climbing. That's the cool thing with those mini splits. They don't take a ton of power. They don't have a huge like start load. So you can see the truck's been running for almost an hour now. And when in generator mode, usually your truck will only run for 30 minutes without, you know, moving. But in generator mode, I have it set. It doesn't prevent you from your truck shutting off every 30 minutes. But you can see now the truck is running, just idling. It's still not even pulling that much power, but it is kind of going up, so this will recharge the battery. If I go to power flow here, you can see engine on due to normal operations, and you can see the power is just powering the battery. So I don't even know if it's just all inverted, so it just keeps that battery topped off. I don't know if that's how it works, but it seems like that's how it works. But if I go back to features, Pro Power Onboard, it's still powering the house. One thing I did inside the house is I went and I turned my hot water tank breaker off because I have electric hot water. The power was off for probably about a half hour before I turned it back on. So it obviously needed a little bit of hot water, so the hot water tank was running. So it was kind of had these in the orange whenever the hot water tank was going. But I mean, I also had the mini splits upstairs that were still on. So it was pulling a lot of power, but when I put my amp clamp on the breaker, it was only showing like 25 amps, which is still quite a bit for a 30 amp breaker. So we got that. I got the exhaust coming out the side here, so it's not in the garage. But let's go to the house and look at the power box. So ignore all of these little amp clamps. I have an Emporia power meter. I've just hooked it up. I'm going to do a whole different video on putting in the newer version. So I'm going to do that very soon. But this breaker right here is the breaker that feeds the sub panel in the garage. It's on, so all the power is coming in through here, and it's feeding all the other circuits. As you can see, the main one's off. Make sure this is off before you do absolutely anything. But you can see this one's off too. That's the hot water tank. It was pulling a ton of power, so obviously I turned that one off. But yeah, everything else is going well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of those generator plugs that has the interlock here, so you have to have this off before you can even turn it on. And then I want to run the power down, and then on the inside here, because this is just a covered back porch, I'm going to put just the plug right here, so you can plug in the twist plug, run a 50-foot cable out, and then it'll just have it right there where my truck is, so that way my truck's nice right next to the house, and I don't have to have it in the garage and the garage door open like that. So kind of like a proof of concept. I've never hooked it up or anything, but everything is running and it's working really well. I mean, the truck's barely struggling at all. I have the hot water tank off, like I said. Obviously we wouldn't run the electric dryer and stuff when we have this running, even though if everything else was off. It's only a 30 amp breaker for the electric dryer too, so if we didn't run anything else in the house, we could do laundry. And like I said, I could power up the hot water tank because it's 30 amps as well. So yeah, I mean, full disclosure, the power did come back on like 5 minutes ago. I saw my neighbor's houses light up, but I figured I'd show you a little proof of concept before I disconnected everything. So it's a 2022 Ford F-150 PowerBoost, not a Power Stroke. And it's around my house. So that seems to be about it. Thanks for watching. 2022 truck running a 1833 house. So pretty neat stuff. Here's another little clip of the the heat running in the garage, and it's still got the engine running because it's obviously using a ton of power. But if I wanted to shut the whole thing down before I unplug it, this is what I do. I go over, click the power button. The generator is now off, and now all the lights in the house are off. I don't know if you saw that lamp, but that's off now. So now everything is safe to unplug and turn it back to grid power. So, thanks for watching. Remember to stay safe. I'm not a licensed electrician. Make sure you have it hooked up correctly. Don't do as I do it. Turn off your main power. Thanks. The plug that hooks up to the truck is a NEMA L1430, and I was using this plug. It's the one I have for all my welders and everything, so it's just the plug I had on hand. But I'm not going to show you how to wire this because you should not do this. Buy the correct cable, but this is what I had on hand. So now I'll show you the truck bed port. Right there's a plug. You can switch it on with this button here. There's another ports. So you got your resets. Yeah, I definitely recommend this. It's a cool feature of this truck. Definitely a cool feature. So I'm gonna go turn the brake power back on. Power's back on now. I'm gonna turn the hot water tank back on because I don't want to forget to do that in the morning.